Just ahead on American Black Journal, Flint Mayor Karen Weaver is here to talk about the latest developments in that city's ongoing water crisis. Plus, I'll talk with 3 African-American small business owners about growth, innovation, and jobs. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Ford has a long history of honoring the achievements of great men and women. We also recognize that honoring means ensuring their legacies are carried forward. 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. To continue his legacy, Ford is partnering with the King Center and encouraging everyone to perform 50 acts of kindness. Between now and August 28, go to mlk54.org and register your act of kindness. Add Ford in the group name, as Ford will recognize select actions from our Southeast Michigan community. Perform your simple act of kindness, and together we'll carry forward Dr. King's dream of creating a beloved community.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. It's been 4 years since the state-appointed emergency manager switched Flint's water source to the Flint River, resulting in lead-tainted drinking water. A public health emergency was declared in this city of nearly 100,000 people, and criminal charges were brought against several state and local officials. So, where do things stand today? Flint Mayor Karen Weaver is here to bring us up to date. Thanks for being here, Mayor Weaver.
I am glad to be here. I really am.
Yeah. So we had some news recently that I think can only be described as a setback in the efforts to try to make this right. Talk about what happened and what effect it's having.
So I think you're talking about the stopping of the bottled water by the governor.
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. And I think it was a bad decision by the governor to do that. And what he said was the water is testing good, so you don't need it anymore. And one of the things I said to him is, I'm aware of the test results we're getting. I mean, you know, why wouldn't I be paying attention to that?
Right.
And they are better, you know, and we're glad they're better. Who wouldn't want good water? I mean, everybody deserves it. Why wouldn't we want good test results? I said, but our fight is, we have not finished with the lead service line replacement.
Right.
We're almost halfway through. And one of the things we were told, and EPA has not changed their stance, was that when you're doing that amount of construction across your city, that those old pipes, lead particulates can break off and get into the system.
Right.
And so we still have to be able to protect ourselves. It's still a public health issue. And so that was why it was so important for the bottled water distribution to stay in place.
Yeah.
The other thing was the test results we were getting back from the schools. 90% of the results were good, but 10% we were still getting very high results in our schools. And the third thing was, it's a matter of trust.
Yeah.
You gave your word. You said that those pods would stay open indefinitely until we got through the replacement of those bad pipes. And we knew it was only going to be, at longest, a 3-year process.
Right.
And to, you know, do that, you know, I could have gone with things are better. Maybe you don't need as much bottled water. We can go from 8 cases a day to 4 cases. We can go from 4 water distribution sites to 2. But they needed to stay in place because we still have families where the pipes haven't been changed.
Where the pipes aren't changed?
And while we can argue that the water tests good, we have homes that test high because the in-home plumbing, the the fixtures have been damaged as a result.
There's all kinds of residual effects of this that still mean people don't have clean water.
Exactly.
Michelle Wolf, the comedian.
Thank you, Michelle Wolf.
At the correspondence dinner, the last thing she said is, Flint still doesn't have clean water, and that's still true.
Well, like I said,
in some cases.
In some cases, because like I said, it may test good, but if your pipes haven't been changed, if you've got plumbing that has been destroyed, there's still an issue. There's still an issue. And so, you know, we said...
When you ask the governor what's going through his mind when he either makes these decisions or signs off on them, what does he say to you?
You know, well, I explained all of this to him. And for him to have the remark that he did, which was Flint needs to get over it, I don't know. I thought it was just a very callous and sensitive remark, especially
Does he say those kind of things to you?
He said that in the meeting to me, yes, and told me that I needed to come back when I had a different conversation. I said, I'd like to have a different conversation, but right now the conversation is staying the same. You know, I had brought, it was so interesting because he wanted to talk about economic development, and we have been making progress with economic development. And I'd taken my new economic development director to the meeting as one of the people that went, hoping that the conversation would go well and we'd get to talk about that as well. But when he told me, you know, come back when you're ready to have a different conversation, I said the conversation is not going to change when we still have issues with our water. You know.
So what are we looking at in terms of the timetable for pipe replacement, which you said you're about 50% through? And then I think the bigger question is, at what point do you feel like the people of Flint will be able to trust again that you go to the faucet, you turn the faucet on, and you're not worried about what's coming out?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, some people may never. Some people may never, but we do want to go by the science. And right now what we've said is let us get all of those bad pipes out and have good results over a stable period of time. But what I've been pushing for and looking for is sign off from the medical community, the public health community, the science community, because we needed them to, you know, even though anybody knows brown water is bad, but we did need them to validate that with data, and so we want them to validate the results that we get that it's good. And so that's who I'm using to determine when we can say, okay, we're through this.
Good.
Yes.
You mentioned economic development, and there is really not just good news, but really good news, surprising news coming out of the efforts that you're making to try to build the city's economy.
I mean, and you know what, we can even start with something as basic as when we were handing out the water. We said we want Flint people getting paid to do that.
To do that work.
Exactly. To package up the food, to do the education going door to door, to let people know the proper use and maintenance of the filters. Let's hire Flint people. When we got the construction contracts, we made sure that the contractors were from the city of Flint and then Genesee County. So we wanted to take care of our own first, and we were very good at doing that. I was excited to be able to have one of the contractors is an African-American company, W.T. Stevens, and it was the first time in Flint's history that we had an African-American company get a multi-million-dollar contract. And they've hired a lot of people from Flint, and so have the other companies. They have hired Flint workers, and they're from Flint, the companies. But we just, you know, one of the things I was telling you earlier is Lear Corporation has come into Flint and built a factory. They've invested $30 or $31 million in the city doing this, and it's the first time we've had a factory built in Flint in over 30 years. I mean, Mott College is building a culinary arts school in downtown Flint. We have new housing going up. The Hilton Garden Inns is getting ready to get started. So things are happening in Flint, and to have, you know, I need to give a big shout out and thank you to the Kellogg Foundation because they gave us a grant and they gave it to the city. You know, people have asked about all this money. Nobody gave money to the city.
The city government,
other than, other than for pipes. And then Kellogg for us to get economic development started back up from the city, because that was something that we did not have at City Hall, was our own economic development department.
Yeah.
And so it's under the leadership of Roderick Smith, who had been down in Detroit and previously had been in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So he's heading up that department. We've had him for almost a month, but he's hired staff and really pushing that forward. So we're excited about the economic development because, you know, when there's a crisis, economic opportunity comes.
Yes, yes.
And so that's what we wanted to focus on.
So one of the things that I say over and over about Flint is that, you know, this crisis in some ways just highlighted issues surrounding lack of opportunity, lack of investment in neighborhoods, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
That made this much worse, obviously, than it needed to be. Talk about the things that will change the lives of people who live in Flint, people who live in neighborhoods where I would imagine now if you own a house, for instance, in a neighborhood in Flint, it's probably harder to sell that house than it was before.
And you have to make sure if you're trying, you have to go and show them that, yes, I've had my pipes changed, and then you have to go get the results from the water testing that other people don't have to do.
I mean, in some ways, it's not a fair question, I guess, because it's asking you, how can you solve poverty? How can you solve lack of opportunity?
Well, you know what? It's interesting you brought that up because when we talk about economic development, one of the things that I liked about Rod was he said he wanted to make it across the board. He said it's easier to bring in, yes, I can just focus on getting these $100,000 jobs, $150,000 jobs. He said, but we need jobs where they're getting $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. This needs to go across all, you know, all different groups, and everybody needs an opportunity to be able to work. And that's what we're looking at. And that's why it was just so important to hire people from the city of Flint. And I'll have to say one of the things W.T. Stevens has done has really given a lot of people a second chance. And hired, you know, people that had had a record before.
Sure, that's a huge issue.
And that's a huge issue for so many. So we've looked at those kinds of things as well.
I'll ask this, it's again maybe not a fair question.
Okay.
What's the point at which you think you'll be able to put this all behind you and say, hey, we're only moving forward now?
Well, you know what, that's what we say anyway. We say we are only moving, because this was a stumbling block. It did take us back, but one of the things we know, and one of the things we always say is how strong and resilient we are. And we don't lay down, we don't give up, and we continue to fight. And so while this may have been a stumbling block, we're going to continue to move forward. It was so interesting because the very next week, we went on with the press conference because we were introducing our economic development team, and we said we're not going to let that stop us, and we still want people to see what we're doing in Flint and the good things that are going on, because there are you know, really great things going on there when you look at all of the colleges and universities that we have, and the you know, all of the hospitals, and when you look at our transportation system, there's a lot to build on. And one of the good things about Flint is it's small enough where you can start seeing some immediate impact. And so I think when people come back, I've heard them say, oh, I was here a few months ago, but I can see change.
I see it moving.
And people are excited because even, I remember when Lear was hiring, they were the first 100 jobs because they're bringing about 600 to 650 jobs. 100 or 150 of those will be transplants, but all of those others, they want to hire Flint people.
People who are
so
there.
They had 100 jobs to start, and we had about 2,500 people lined up for those jobs, just to show people, you know, because sometimes they'll say, oh, they just want a handout, they're lazy.
They want to work.
These people want to work, and they were there.
All right, Mayor Karen Weaver, it's always great to see you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all the work in Flint.
And we will continue. Thanks.
Up next, celebrating small business. But first, we're taking a look back at some of the guests on this program over the last 50 years. Here's a 1994 interview about growing black businesses in Detroit.
What is behind the move to economically empower citizens, groups, people, churches in the city of Detroit? And I'll start with you, Ricardo. What's this all about?
Well, Darryl, one of the things that the bank wanted to do is to get more involved with the church community. This is a program that we instituted together several months ago to empower churches. We're encouraging them to do more joint ventures. We're encouraging them to come together and create community development corporations in an effort to do housing revitalization as well as commercial revitalization in their communities.
Well, then I should probably ask you, Mr. Sheehy, our next question, Sheely, I'm sorry, our next question, and that would be, why churches?
When you look at the black community across the country, churches are the most solid and stable economic unit in most black communities, and that certainly is very much true of the Detroit community. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense for us as a bank to get involved with the churches to expand our business and to help them become more productive as economic units.
I can understand why a bank might be interested in tapping into the economic potential that is in a community. And I guess that my next question for you, Mr. Solomon, would be, what's your interest in bringing all these parties to the table? Is it purely political? Is it economic? Is it a combination of the two?
I think it's more economic and more revitalization of our communities. When you look at Detroit in particular, you see a city that to a large degree has been devastated through disinvestment. One of the institutions that is viable and that is significant throughout America, and particularly in the city of Detroit, is churches.
We're just coming off National Small Business Week, a time to celebrate the value and importance of small businesses. The Detroit area has a growing number of entrepreneurs who are contributing to the economy, and 3 of these small business owners are here with me today. I'd like to welcome Sonia Weston of Your Premier Travel Service, Regina Gaines from House of Pure Vin, and Karen Burton of Space Lab. Welcome to all 3 of you to American Black Journal.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk about the sort of state of small business in the city of Detroit. Your business is right in the middle of downtown Detroit on Woodward Avenue.
Yes.
Is this a place that is hospitable to new businesses opening up, small businesses? Is it working?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think our city as well as our state has done wonderful in terms of developing private public partnerships. I think the avenues to be able to get into business and able to, from start to growth, has been there. I actually think sometimes that the business is maybe even developing quicker than the demand. But the point is that it's a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And it's one that I think that, you know, a lot of different cities can probably emulate around the country.
Yeah, yeah. At the same time, all businesses face challenges. Small businesses face different challenges from others. Talk about some of the things, some of the hurdles that still exist here in Detroit.
Actually, what's really great of a presence, we have a presence in Detroit, but as Regina just hit on, we may have more businesses than we have patrons. So we have to educate the clients to patronize our businesses in Detroit. That's one of the bigger problems, but as Detroit continues to grow, they are starting to come in, and as we have a presence in representing the city of Detroit in its growth, that allows them to come in and patronize us and be, I guess, share the excitement that we share.
Yeah. Talk about travel agency. I think a lot of people think of that as an old world business that's been replaced by things like Expedia online. What's the space for the travel agency now?
Actually, it has evolved itself, and because I've had an opportunity to be in it for over 25 years, I've seen it at its high points, and also I've seen it, you know, where people thought, just as you just said, that we didn't exist. But because experiences are awesome right now, especially the millennials, they love experiences. We could assist them with creating those experiences, making it affordable, and also giving them different ideas, just being their key to the world. So, so there's a need for us.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us about Space Lab.
Space Lab is a co-working and shared office space. We focus mainly on the built environment, so many of our members are contractors, real estate developers, and architects, people in the built environment community. A lot of time when people think of a co-working space, they think of startups and new businesses. A lot of our members are more experienced. They have a lot of experience in their field, and their businesses have been open for quite some time. We have one member who's been in business for over 50 years.
Wow, wow. So all 3 of you have started businesses here in the city of Detroit. One of the things I hear a lot about running a business here is difficulty with access to capital. Talk about House of Pure Vin, which is not just a wine store, but also sort of a wine experience,
It
right?
is. I think that my experience with capital has been a little different.
Yeah.
I've actually had access to it. And I think that Detroit has been probably wonderful when you're talking about a black woman, a single mom, and at the time I was just coming out of my midlife crisis of law school. So student loan debt.
That's a big midlife crisis.
Right, it was midlife crisis. So with that being said, I think that they have been friendlier to the accommodations here in terms of.
Is that right?
Fund. Yes, I mean we are one of the first recipients of the Colors of Entrepreneurs Fund. I do think we still have a long way to go with lending. Like you can get money for a startup, but I don't know in terms of growth how easy it is. But it's also other programs now, like even, you know, Dan Gilbert is threw his hat in the game with Demo Day. I think to be able to know that if you are an existing business and you can actually get up to $300,000, and I'm hearing that even if you don't win, if he likes you, it's still opportunities. You know what I mean? So I do think that we're more friendlier.
Yeah. Have you?
Yes. On the flip side of that, preparing yourself to request or for funding is really important. A lot of entrepreneurs, they need the funding, but they don't know how to prepare themselves to ask for it to be approved. I had the honor of being part of the Goldman Sachs 10K Small Business Program, and that was excellent in assisting me with preparing myself and a lot of other entrepreneurs. You have to have a mindset that you are able to accept it, and then also you have to believe in your business and that there's a future, and it allows you to continue to grow, and that funding will assist you. So it's about the mindset and making yourself available to preparing for it.
That idea about training, teaching, getting people prepared for business, that's a huge key too. If you're not ready for those things, you have a higher chance of failing.
Yes, that's correct. So at Space Lab, we do a lot of events that help people prepare for business. We're starting to have some funding type workshops and events to help people, bringing in different places like Invest Detroit, Motor City Match, and places like that, and also teaching students about entrepreneurship. So we have an urban launch pad for urban entrepreneurship type for-profit businesses, businesses that can help within the city, but they also should also make money. So that's one of our 7-week programs that we have at Space Lab.
What about downtown versus neighborhoods? We talk a lot about that. You have a business right in the middle of downtown, which I imagine is different than opening up a spot at 6 Mile and Livernois, for instance.
I think right now they're all running neck and neck. And the reason why I'm saying that is that the city, some of the community funding, they basically, you know, have identified not only downtown, but 8 other areas to kind of make sure this happens simultaneously. So I think right now with the average consumer, they're trying to figure out, do I need to go on Woodward if I need to go on Livernois? I think the challenge right now is Oakland County, I think the attendance at the Pistons games kind of let us know just how big the Oakland County lifestyle has really become. And
that it moved to
LCA. And when it came back. So the lack of attendance. So I think even with me, 65% of my customers who walk through my door hasn't even been in my store before.
Wow.
And even trying to convince people of little things like, okay, walk 2 blocks to park, or, you know, pay for parking. Those things that, you know, most people are just accustomed to experiencing even downtown. That's a challenge here now. Just to even say, you know, you can find a parking meter in Detroit. It might be 2 blocks. It might be 2 blocks from the store. It's only $1 an hour, but fundamentally, we are having a hard time transitioning to that life as a community. So I think that those are the barriers that I didn't really necessarily think about before, when we opened up. And I think that is kind of impacting how fast downtown is growing. I think the difference is that when you have what's different between our billionaires and New York billionaires, our billionaires, this is a passion point for them. So they're more interested in it from the spirit of it. We want to see Detroit back versus what our dollar can be. So I don't think they're looking to make money, but it ain't like now.
Well, you know, we started in the city, right there on 7 Mile and Pinehurst. So to have that have people come back to the city is a great thing because the city is growing and entrepreneurs is really going to have a great effect on it.
Yeah. We could talk about this for hours, but we are out of time. But thanks very much for being here, and congratulations on all three of your businesses.
Thank you very much.
It's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org, and you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta Faucets, Craft-Made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Ford has a long history of honoring the achievements of great men and women. We also recognize that honoring means ensuring their legacies are carried forward. 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. To continue his legacy, Ford is partnering with the King Center and encouraging everyone to perform 50 acts of kindness. Between now and August 28, go to MLK54.org and register your act of kindness. Add Ford in the group name, as Ford will recognize select actions from our Southeast Michigan community. Perform your simple act of kindness, and together we'll carry forward Dr. King's dream of creating a beloved community.